Okay, we're live. So welcome back, Josh. Give us a 30-second recap of Blackstrap Glamping Resort. Again, the link to the previous episodes in the description, but for those who want the crash course, let it rip.
Yeah, so my name is Josh Turner. I'm one of the owners here at the Blackstrap Glamping Resort. So we have 6 now luxury-themed glamping domes that are in the heart of Blackstrap Provincial Park here in about 25 minutes out of Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada.
Perfect. And want to give us a little bit of info on the overall guest experience?
Yeah, so the guests can expect like a luxury experience when they check in. So we've got heated floors, your own showers, bathrobes, slippers, king size beds, plush duvet covers. It's really that 5-star luxury experience that's in the heart of nature.
And you're recording this in Saskatchewan. I'm recording this in Edmonton. It has
Yes.
just started to get a little bit cold. It's minus 15 degrees C, which I don't quite know what that is in Fahrenheit, but just tell us a little bit about the Canadian winter, because today's focus is obviously on winter glamping, and we have some pretty harsh winters.
Yeah, so we were kind of laughing here with this fall that we've been having. I think you guys had the same thing, t-shirts walking around for mid November, and then all of a sudden yesterday the floodgates opened. We got about a foot of snow, winds for 2 days, so lots of drifts, and like you said, dropping down to minus 15, minus 20 degrees here this week. So yeah, we're right. We went from a nice brown or a nice fall to straight into the heart of winter here.
Yeah, and it will get down to kind of minus 40 at least, and that's the same in Celsius as it is in Fahrenheit. So that should
Yeah.
tell you all you need to know about just how cold it gets here. And you guys make it work. So we want to dive into that, the practicalities
Yeah.
of it, but also kind of the marketing and the guest experience around that. So
For sure.
we're going to get into that. So first of all, just to set the scene, I kind of want to know a little bit more about your target customer, because we're going to ask about, how that changes through the seasons. But tell us a little bit about your typical guest at Blackstrap.
Yeah, what's been really neat is we kind of have a year under our belt now, so I'm not as afraid. It's freezing out. I got guests here. I know how to clear the snow and get all that stuff done. I'm not worried about things freezing up and everything. So it's a little bit chill going into that, and we can actually look at some of these things like our demographics and stuff. So what we're really seeing is young couples. We're seeing lots of new to Canada families as well. Lots of people who just don't have a cabin, don't want to purchase an RV. Not a lot of places to escape out here, so this is just a nice little escape that people can do for 1 or 2 days, and it's 25 minutes on a dual lane highway, just outside of the city, so people are able to escape and just kind of be able to get out and enjoy that experience.
And so is it you say the vast majority of your guests are from kind of the local city?
Yeah. Yeah. That being said, we have had, numerous people this summer come out from Alberta, out east of Canada. We've had some people come, and then, kind of neighboring cities and areas within Saskatchewan.
Mm-hmm. And then, so I presume kind of the guest profile stays pretty similar throughout the year.
Yeah, it does. Yes.
I'm curious because you got kind of your dome recommendations or the installation recommendations from a site out east, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and that's kind of Eastern Canada is probably a little bit more of an international tourist destination than say Saskatchewan. I'm curious to know how that I don't know whether it kind of it differs throughout the year for them, whether it's similar for them, like whether they get most of their guests locally throughout the year. If that changes, I don't suppose you know that at all.
Yeah, actually, I spoke to Angel a couple days ago, and we were just chatting about rates and stuff like that. And they stay full up in the winter time as well. I think they get a little bit more people that are from around the area that they come and stay, and she runs some promotions for that as well, to get people that are there. But they stay full out there as well. And same thing with us. We're not an international hub by any means. And once you get into the winter time, there's not a lot to do. We'll get into it a little bit, but there's not a lot to do out at this park until that ice freezes and you can go ice fishing, skating, and all that stuff. So we're kind of on our shoulder season right now. So where we're seeing people get just want a quick escape. So maybe it's a health professional that just needs a little kind of mental health break, or somebody just trying to get away, a couple just wanting to get away for the night. So that's what we're seeing a little bit more right now. Whereas, yes, in the summertime, we had like big groups of families, people traveling a little bit more, not having to worry about the icy conditions of the roads. And there's just a little bit more to do.
And tell us about the amenity package you have as well. Does that change throughout the seasons?
Our amenity package?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're not able to offer as much. We offer the same food options as we do. And then what we'd really do is we market kind of more of the winter um, occasion. So we do have a ice fishing package where people can rent the ice shack and they can get the rods and all the things that they would need, and they just take it out on the ice and they can go ice fishing. Then we're going to be adding snowshoes to the packages this year, and so just some little stuff like that changes a little bit once we get into that winter season.
For the ice fishing, do they have to drill their own hole?
Yeah,
Is it manual or do they get like a chainsaw or something like that?
it's an electric, basically a big drill. That's it. It's super easy to use, very user friendly, and so they just take it and use that and just drill their own holes. There's some laws against of what we can do and what we can't do within the environment here. So we have to the Ministry of Environment has some rules and regulations on what we can and can't do for our guests, and so we can provide them the option to be able to go and enjoy that. We just can't go and do it for them.
Forgive my Britishness here, but is ice fishing literally just like fishing in the ice in the cold? Like what?
Yeah,
What's the
Nick.
what's the
Yeah,
attraction there?
we got to get you. We got to get you out here ice
It's
fishing. Yeah,
exhilarating,
so
Nick. It's
Is it?
exhilarating.
it's a famed pastime from a lot of Saskatchewan
uh,
people. So basically, yeah, you get an ice shack, and you got to see some of these. People are making them out of old airplanes, the backs of semi trucks. My good friend has got a camper that he's retrofitted into an ice shack, and basically drill some holes out the bottom, and then drill your holes right into the ice. Put your lures down there, and you sit there and wait.
It's not that different than just normal fishing where you just go out on a boat, put your line in the water, and just sit there and do nothing. It's basically the same thing, but you just sit on the ice or you sit in a shack and you have a beer or a hot chocolate and like tell stories and
are you just staring at the wall though, like,
pretty
or
much.
are you like sitting around in a circle, or?
No. What? Well, it depends on which way you go, and some of these guys are out of hand. Like my friend, um, he's got a big TV on his RV,
Okay,
and then he drops down the camera, and you can see the fish. The thing about the wintertime too is that the water becomes really clear, so you can see the fish a lot easier than you can when with the summertime and the LJ blooms and stuff. So, and then you sit there, you can hear the ice cracking. You're kind of it's safe, but it's still that exhilarating part of it. It's a rite of passage, Nick. I think you
okay,
got to do it.
all right. I'll try it out. I'll try it out.
It's pretty cool. I spent a winter solstice in like northern Finland and went out to some friends, like really
Cool.
rustic cabin. And it's, as soon as we arrived, their big thing is sauna. So we manually cut holes in the ice so that we could get
Yeah.
water because the cabin didn't even have water. So we had to like get buckets of water to bring into the house for like cleaning the dishes and flushing the toilet and stuff. But as soon as we got there, we went out with a hand crank ice driller, and it took us like we had to do 9 small holes to make one big box, and it took us probably like 15 minutes per hole getting through like eight
Yes.
inches of ice, and it was painstaking work, but super memorable, very cool experience, like kind of getting in touch with like an older tradition. And I would imagine that, I mean, I think a lot of your guests you mentioned are from Saskatchewan, but if you do have guests coming from outside of it, particularly like south of the border in the US, it's a pretty novel experience that not a lot of people get to have. Uh, so, I don't know if people are going to do it every day, but just to like do it and say they did it is pretty fun.
Yeah, no doubt. That sounds like an amazing experience. I'll stick to staying above the ice. That kind of freaks me out a little bit, but so we offer that for our guests, and they're able to come and enjoy that experience. We also have lots of guests that they come here to stay here because Blackstrap is a good ice fishing spot. That they'll come and they'll bring all their gear and they'll stay in our domes, but they'll go out on the ice and go ice fishing. So we do have a lot of those guests that do that as well.
Nice. And what else do when guests are out on property in the winter? Like, what does a typical day look like for them? Is it mostly in their domes? Are they getting out much?
Yeah, I think we didn't realize it as well until we went and stayed in a dome. When we went to Dan and Angel's Creekside R&R, shout out to them. Beautiful, beautiful spot. And we didn't realize what it was until we got there. And we spent, aside from going out to grab some food, we spent 2 days just hanging out in the domes. Or just the acoustics, the experience, the beautiful big bay window is enough of an entertainment for people to just kind of like chill and take that all in. And I think where we're really unique in our property is it's a dark sky area as well. So we're far enough from the city, so you do get the beautiful stars. You get northern lights all the time. This year we've been so blessed with how many of our guests have been able to see northern lights, and just that quietness. You just kind of hear the snow just slowly pinging off of the window, and I think there's enough entertainment out of that's what guests are really coming out to enjoy, and that's what our biggest feedback is about the relaxation, the quietness, the best sleep they've ever had in their lives. That's the feedback that we're getting from our winter guests. But we do have two saunas on property. We have two wood burning saunas on property that guests can use and go roll in the snow after that. There's some great hiking trails that are around here. There's tobogganing trails and stuff like that. So there are things for our guests to do as soon as the snow hits here.
And presumably the big bay windows are a pretty big part of that of the guests being able to experience, or enjoy the experience if they are sat inside. Because if you're looking out of a dinky little window, I presume it's not as fun. So would that be advice to anyone who's looking to do winter glamping, is to have that nice view from inside the unit?
Yeah, and you want to set that up. You want to that's all of our photography. If you look on our website, is a lot of it shot out of that. We had to do quite a bit of extra stuff with edits and to make those shots the hero photos on all of it. So for our websites, for our marketing, that's the big thing. We've got a family of deer that live on the property, and so they come up, and it's been guests have told us there was a deer staring in our window in the morning. Stuff like that happens quite a bit here. You're 25 steps, I think, to the lake, so you got lots of birds and stuff like that, just really, really close by. So I think that's a big. We don't put TVs in our domes for that reason.
And is it the bed? Like, are they lying in bed looking out the windows, or is that a
Yeah.
separate seating area? How does it work?
Yeah, exactly. So they're lying in bed, and they're king size bed, and then they look out that way, and then above them, ours is set up like a cube situation. So above them, there's another bed, loft area that's up there, and then that houses the washroom and shower and toilet and all that stuff.
Hi there. Long-time listeners of the show might remember Paul Bosley, who was on the podcast previously talking about all things glamping financing. Paul is from Business Finance Depot, and they specialize in SBA loans, USDA loans, and equipment financing. Now, Paul is my go-to guy for glamping financing. Whenever someone asks me for financing help with their glamping project, I always introduce them to him. He's able to help with so many different types of loans. He's so knowledgeable. He's got relationships with a lot of different banks, and he's just generally my go-to guy because he's so versatile with that. Now, Paul has a financial planning spreadsheet that his clients use that is really detailed and allows you to plan out everything from setup costs to revenues, profits, return on investments, payback times, etc. And we're actually giving it away for free to podcast listeners. So check out the link in the description. There'll be a link there to download the financial planning spreadsheet. You can input all your data and it will churn out all those numbers for you to help get you started on your financing journey. And if you want an introduction to Paul, just let me know and I will do that. And just so you know, if any of my clients or prospects secure financing with Paul through my introduction, we do get a nice little commission as well. So if you want to support the podcast and me personally, then just let me know and I'll happily introduce you to Paul and hopefully he can solve your financing needs. So again, there's a link in the description to download the financial planning spreadsheet. It really is worth a go. And if you want an intro to Paul, just let me know and I'll set you up right away. And my email is nick@glampytech.com if you did want that intro. So download that spreadsheet. Let me know if you want to speak to Paul, and on to the episode.
I am glad that domes are becoming more popular. Historically speaking, the big winter glamping unit, if you will, has been yurts because of their high snow loads and ability, high wind wind structural ratings. And I've stayed, my girlfriend and I have stayed in a couple yurts recently. Actually, we were just in the San Juan Islands and stayed in a yurt a few days ago. And, the big downside of them is there really isn't a big window. You can put windows in and there is at the very tip on the top is usually transparent. So light gets in, but we weren't ever getting this $1 million view, and we'd hang out and, play cards or journal or read or whatever. But you didn't get that feeling of I'm nestled in by the window, watching the snowfall or watching the sunset or something. And I think that's why, what we've seen in our data is that yurts have really low rates. They're some of the lowest ADR units. And there's ways to make them really nice. I think a lot of yurts tend to be on the more rustic side without bathrooms and without really nice amenities. Just as a category, they tend to be more rustic, which might drive that down. But then on the flip side, I think you see domes as one of the best performing rate units from a rate perspective. And I think a huge portion of that just comes down to that bay window.
There's a lot of that, and to get into the business side of that, if we can touch on that part of it, what's funny about being said is the yurts, they maybe don't generate that much, but these domes, the behind the scenes of what it takes to make these things actually work in an environment, an ever-changing environment like this, like if you could ask me to go back again and would I choose domes, the answer would probably no. But like Dan Miller said out at Creekside, if you asked him again, would the answer would be yes, because you do get all of those things that are very, very marketable. You get that big giant window. You get all of that, like how cool they look from, aerial photos and all that stuff. But what people don't see behind the scenes is all of the mitigation that you have to do with water vapors, like those windows fogging up. How do you solve that? All the ice. How do you keep these things insulated? How do you keep them from the airflow going and making sure that your guest isn't getting overheated or isn't getting too cold and stuff? There's a lot to these domes that is behind the scenes that before you look at just you collecting the most money out of that, there's a lot that goes in behind that to construct these things.
I'd love for you to just walk us through those things you just mentioned, those problems and how you solve them, whether it's water vapor to fog up the windows on the inside or ice accumulation on the outside, like how air circulation, how are you solving that?
And just first, what is it? Is it all PVC? Just so we know.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
including the window.
Including the window. So the window's like a clear PVC.
Yeah.
So you can imagine, you're putting on a raincoat over top of stuff, then you get people breathing in there. And then once you introduce the luxury options that we have, like showers and stuff like that, and you're able to cook in there, you can create a lot of moisture that's in there. And if it doesn't have anywhere to go, it just stays in. I see a lot of glamping domes, a lot of resorts that come up, and I follow the industry. And I see a lot of them that come up, and I look at some of them, and I know at the point in time when they're going to be like, introducing air conditioners. Oh, now we have brand new fans in the windows. I can see when it's going to happen, and I can see them when they're not doing it at the start. And I know all the conversations that went on during that time till they got to the point. I wish they'd just be able to jump on a podcast like this or have the pleasure like I had of flying out and meeting with Dan Miller out at Creekside and getting some huge insight from him. But we just learned, $100,000 worth of information by studying and learning about these things. So, there's a bit more to these domes than kind of meets the eye.
Yeah. So what's the solution to the air circulation?
Is to have a good HRV system inside. It depends on the habitat, the environment that you're at. So I'm going to use mine, obviously, because I know it the best, as opposed to like a dry, airy desert situation. So here in Saskatchewan, we go from, plus 36, plus 40 degree summertime, super hot, super humid, down to minus 56, minus 60 degree winters with the wind chill. And so what we had to do was we had to insulate the entire dome. So we used a closed cell spray foam that goes, we would erect the dome itself. We would add the spray foam on there, a 3-inch layer on there. And then that's when we put up our next final finishing layer that would go inside of that. So on the other side of that, it's got that tinfoil kind of puffy finishing that would add some more insulation. What happens is a lot of people that are in those environments where it changes the temperatures a lot is they put up the dome and they have that PVC that's sealed. Then they put up that liner that is also, holds a lot of moisture. That gap that's in between there doesn't get any air. So all mold builds up in there really, really fast. The humidity has absolutely nowhere to go because you have no way to vent that barrier that's in there. The dead space adds for insulation, but it also adds for no air circulation and can build up into mold. So by adding that vapor barrier of the closed cell spray foam, you eliminate that option because you keep that barrier free from there. So it doesn't build up with any moisture inside of it. For the the ventilation and stuff like that, we went with an HRV system. So it brings in air it heats it up, and then it pumps it out, and it just cycles through your air. What the packages come with is those solar panel fans that they tell you to put in the top. Well, we went to go install one of those, and I looked at it in 2 seconds, and I thought, well, what happens the first time that we get snow or a drift or the wind that comes through there, or the giant mosquitoes that live here? It just, everything about it said this isn't going to work. So we sealed up the hole, and we found another option.
HRV, that's now, is that the same as like HVAC, or is that just a heating system?
No, it's the same as an HVAC. So it's the same one that I think it's a heat recovery ventilation. Some HVAC guy's gonna just bash me in the comments about it, but I forget what it is. So
you take
yeah,
cold air from outside, you heat it up on the
yeah,
way in, and then air is getting pushed out.
yeah, air's
Got
getting
it. So
pushed
it's
out.
both
Yeah,
heating and ventilating.
it is. Yeah,
And then when
yeah, very. I wouldn't say that I wouldn't say that it does anything for like it's heated. It's just not super cold.
yeah.
So it's another thing that we do have to keep in mind. And when the HRV system's going, if it gets stuck on and it's minus 40 out, that dome will get extremely cold right away. So it's something that we have to balance out while our guests are staying in these extreme temperatures. But we work with them, and it's worked out so far.
Do you have extra heaters, or does that HRV?
Yeah. So our system, how we have it is we have a big dual air system. So like you find at a motel, it controls, it's the majority of our heat, and it's the air conditioning system. On top of that, we have a baseboard heater that's at the back of the dome by the porch that kicks in when it's needed. So if the door gets left open or something. We have another baseboard heater that's under the bathroom, so that heats the floor, but it also heats all the utilities and pipes that's underneath there. Everything is all spray foamed underneath the domes as well, to keep it all kind of nice and warm in there. So we've got another baseboard heater, so that heats the floors, and then we've got another fireplace heater. So it doesn't put out a lot, but it just kind of takes the edge off a little bit. So we run 100% on electricity at our resort.
So it's an electric fireplace.
Yeah.
And it visually looks like there's a fire, but it's not actually.
Yeah. So, one of the things, and I said, like, from the start, I never wanted to go with real fireplaces. I just, there's a lot of danger that comes with that. It was hard enough when we opened up, it was during COVID, and it was hard enough for insurance to give you any sort of insurance on rental accommodations, let alone if you're putting fireplaces in there. So I knew right off the bat that we weren't going to do that, but I was sold on pellet stoves. I went and bought all the pellet stoves. I got the biggest ones I could get. They had like Bluetooth on them. You could control them. I was 100% on board going with these pellet stoves. Then the more we kind of got into it, excuse me, we started kind of looking at what it was required for these pellet stoves. And in our province, there's an actual rating that you need to get, and these inspections called a wet inspection. And the inspectors were very, very hard to find. I think there was one in the province that we could find, and very, very expensive. And it was per dome. It wasn't like, okay, we'll come in and we'll look at all of them and we'll wrap them all under one umbrella. It was that they had to go do each one. So all of a sudden, these wood pellet stoves became like just not feasible. So we went with the electric fireplace, and I'm so happy with our decision.
Talking of the county, did you need to meet a certain R value for your domes? Like is so insulation?
We did not know.
Did the foam, like, did you measure what R value the foam added, or was it just like we'll use enough to keep it warm, basically?
Yeah, well, we had an idea. Again, shout out to Dan of helping us. He actually had his spray foamer get a hold of our spray foamer, or vice versa, and put them in contact, so they were able to talk with each other and find out the R values. But it's extreme. Like, everyone thinks, oh, you run off electricity, your power bills must be crazy. These domes are so energy efficient that my power bills are very, very manageable. Even when we're in that minus 56, it was minus 56 for 2 weeks, and our power bill wasn't even that crazy. I thought they made a mistake, but they're just that they conserve that much energy.
That was one of the questions we had. Is there, presumably there's some difference, right, in your running costs between summer and winter? But it's not. It's
For
not.
sure.
It's not. It's not kind of disastrously big.
No, it's not. It's a lot of the other things that operate in the wintertime. We've been kind of going back and forth all day and been running around because we've got the snowfall. Well, I mean, I brought a guy in with a Bobcat at $125 an hour for the day. So that wouldn't happen in the summertime. Just getting out here and having, I had another team of three of us. We were all shoveling at, whatever, an hour. So there is a cost at that. Our firewood, we use more of it in the saunas, obviously, because people want that experience. So it's actually, your cost is a lot higher. And you'll hear a lot of people say, well, you should reduce your rates in the winter and it should be less, but actually it ends up costing us more to operate in the wintertime. So we don't adjust our rates at all in the winter.
It's a really good thing for listeners to keep in mind. I know we were working on a project in the Northeast, and one of the highest snowfall locations that I'd seen, and exactly what you just said. You have to bring in a Bobcat guy who's going to charge over $100 an hour for 8 hours of work, and how many times do you have to do that in a season? Like 10?
Yeah, it kind of depends, and we had to get it done for the weekend, but this, to keep in mind, this was for 2 guests. This was for half the resort being full.
Yeah.
So, any profit, any margins that we're making off of that is gone right there. It has to be done. We've got a full resort coming tomorrow, so it did need to happen. But when you start looking at those, you really do need to think about if you want to be operating in the wintertime and what that looks like. It's not all beautiful skating and hot chocolates by the fire with marshmallows. It's really not. It's, as soon as this hit, I just thought to myself, oh, this is why people don't do this. That makes total sense.
Yeah, it's important for listeners to think about, like, if you're going to be, a lot of these locations are remote, and you need to think about snow plowing and snow blowing and snow removal everywhere, right? Oftentimes the roads into these properties are very long, and you'll have to remove snow from that entire road. And then, the parking lot, the paths to each unit, and in between, perhaps removing snow from the domes themselves. So it's big, and kind of just some easy math for what you're saying. Like, if you're paying a Bobcat operator or someone to do this $100 an hour for, let's just say, like 10 hours a day for 10 times a year, you're in the $10,000 to $15,000 range just for snow removal, which is, when you think about how much money you might be bringing in, it's a sizable expense.
Yeah, it really is. And there's a lot of other things that go along with that. And just the effort of getting things done. Like, now we have toboggans for the house cleaning staff. So they throw their bins in this big toboggan and they pull their toboggans through the snow and get there and then load all the stuff up. It's for real, but that adds an extra strain on things. Like, people aren't as fast. It's cold. You're making a mess on top of your mess because you walk in with your snowy boots. And so there's a lot to it to think about that just doesn't that doesn't come up. So I hope that people can kind of get more guests on, like myself, and people can kind of hear about the winter part of it, because not a lot of people do it. I'm not trying to discourage anybody from it, because there is a reason why we're doing it, and it is, there's revenue to be made in it. And if you can establish yourself like we're one of the only big winter kind of destinations that there is in our province. There's a couple other places that you can go, but there's no other cabins or glamping domes or experiences like that. We're really one of the only places, so we really, really push that winter experience here.
How much longer does it take to do housekeeping in the winter versus the summer? Because I was at a property with someone who was talking about the exact same thing, and I think it's where it would rain. They said if it's raining, that adds 25%, 30% to our housekeeping time.
Oh, for sure. I would say, they can kind of be wrapped up in, at the level that we do our domes, like each person gets a dome, and about kind of like 2 hours and a half to get the domes. And then we spend the last little bit just kind of doing that deeper clean of things, or if there's something wrong, then we'll do that, or doing up the saunas. There's always stuff to do. But when I see this, when the snow hits like this, it's right to the wire. Like, it is okay, we might need extra hands on deck. I might need to be out there like getting the linens ready for everybody or taking them out and loading them up and stuff like that. So it ends up being right to the wire for that. So I'd say that 25% is pretty true.
Hi, friends. This is your host, Connor Schwab at Sage Outdoor Advisory. If you're launching an outdoor hospitality project like glamping, we can help. We offer feasibility studies and appraisals. What that means is we look at your specific market and proposed business offering and complete an in-depth analysis and financial projections to make sure that your planned business will be profitable. Getting a second opinion on your proposal and forecasted financials is critical to understand before you spend years of your time and hundreds of thousands of dollars. This is particularly important if you are looking to raise money for your project from a bank or private investors. They are going to want to see this type of in-depth analysis from an independent third-party specialist in the industry. We have completed over 250 feasibility studies and appraisals in outdoor hospitality in the US in the last 4 years. So we understand what it takes to bring a project from concept to reality. If this sounds like it could be helpful to you, you can go to our website, sageoutdooradvisory.com, and you can schedule a complimentary consultation with our team. Thanks. Now back to the show.
So we've gone through all the negatives or the challenges associated with winter glamping. I think it is time to turn it into the opportunities, because there are some unique opportunities associated with it. So starting off with marketing, could you just tell us a little bit about how your marketing changes between the peak summer season and then as you're heading into winter?
So it's really easy with us for our marketing because we have such an abrupt change of season. With our fall, obviously we want to highlight all those beautiful fall colors. With our winter, all of our winter packages and the snow globes and stuff like that. Summertime is pretty cool too because we own a tiki bar that's attached or with like a 2-minute walk. So we're kind of hyping up all of the fun stuff to do at the tiki bar with the live music and all of the bands and all the cool, good food and good drink that you can have by just walking a minute away.
Yeah, that tiki bar has been on my to-do list for a while. I was actually thinking, so Posh Outdoors' kind of HQ might actually be in Atlanta. That's where our CFO is.
Yeah.
So I was just thinking, if I end up moving there, it'd probably be kind of 8-12 months away. But if I end up moving there, I'll probably do a cross-country drive or cross-country drive. And the first stop on my destination, I would have to go by Saskatchewan, so I would 100% stop at that tiki bar. So I'm holding that reservation.
Yes,
Josh.
yeah, I got you. I got your spot right at the bar. So, yeah, it's a special place. It's a lot of fun. So we do a lot of marketing towards that as well, and we'll do tie in the events that we do there. We do Jaws on the water, so we'll put a bunch of people floating in inner tubes and we'll have a big blow up screen and watch Jaws. So anytime that we have that, we're obviously promoting that to the resort and to our guests, being like, hey, come on down, or if you book during this time, you'll be here for our annual luau or whatever the case may be.
So it seems like I've looked through your Instagram. It looks great with the content. It's fairly easy, I think, to upload on Instagram new content that is seasonal and getting guests in those different seasonal mindset with videos and images. Are you updating as well the content on your website biannually or quarterly?
Yeah, there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that goes on. So Nick, we kind of talked offline briefly there. We're working out some technical stuff about the new content and stuff. So this has taken a year of this content creator that's been coming out. And so now he's back to when he started what was wintertime. He actually doesn't have a lot of snow shots. But so he's been accumulating all of this stuff for a year now, and we've been kind of plugging that in. So now we have this evergreen bit of marketing that we can go back to. Once the snow kind of hit, we released this video that had all the exciting things that you can do at the glamping resort. We have this thing, if you've seen on there, but you can rent a tank. It's a Sherp. It's an amphibious tank that can go on water and go on the ice. It's got big wheels, drives around. You can rent it, and they'll take you out. And if you break through the ice, it just floats, it crawls out. Super crazy cool. So you can rent that with your stay at the glamping resort. And we've got a feature
property.
Yeah,
you keep it at your property.
So how have we done like probably 3 hours worth of talking with you, and we haven't brought up the fact that you have a tank that you can rent?
Oh yeah. I it's one of our claim to fame. I think we're one of the only glamping resorts that you can rent a tank.
I think you're the only one.
There's a local guide. You'll see on the Instagram when you watch the winter one. and we're on the ice. So we went out with a few influencers, and there's a tour guide that takes you out on the ice, and he drives you around and looks for places that he can fall in, and so that you go and float, and then you go up the hill, and it's this. It's called a Sherp. It's got big, massive inflatable tires. You can inflate them, deflate them. Drives with joysticks like a tank. It's crazy. It's cool.
Yeah, and just to go back on a point you mentioned a little bit earlier about how kind of it takes you a bit of time to kind of capture the content, and it's something we're going through at Skyridge at the minute. Is, we're probably just going to miss the boat for that Christmas like kind of the Christmas content capturing. So we're gonna have to wait a whole year, and so we probably won't be able to do the Christmas marketing campaign as well as we'd like next year. So there is usually a backlog before you can kind of capture the 4-season content that you want, right?
Yeah. And that's the thing behind the scenes. So with your Instagram, I can go out there when the leaves are turning and I can do my little reel and get that, capture that moment. But for those big, like kind of hero movies that we've got this professional out to do, he needs all of that content created. He's got a really cool commercial that we're launching. We want to talk about the seasons. A big thing for our resort is the seasons and how you can enjoy it. So, the commercial runs like this girl's walking in front of the big bay window, which is one of our key features, and the seasons change with every step that she takes. So she's drinking coffee and it's winter, and then all of a sudden it's summer, fall, blah blah blah. So that's one of the key features in our marketing that we really want to. We are seasonal. We want to really show that seasonality of Saskatchewan because it's beautiful.
Is there any particular content that's landed and performed really well? Any particular types?
It's weird. That social media is weird. Like we kind of talked about briefly again offline, a lot of this new stuff with kind of me walking through the domes has really been hitting a lot. We did one where it was just us. I was walking through one of our new domes and kind of showing where this is going to be, why we did this and that one just like blew up for whatever reason. So we're noticing that a lot more when we're doing introducing the domes a little bit more, that's really hitting.
That's super interesting. We've heard that a little bit. Obviously having great content, which is really aesthetic, interior and exterior landscape shots of the views is really important. But have you noticed that videos of you talking and showing your face or telling the story of the property, have you noticed that those perform better or worse than like the really beautiful landscape or interior shots?
It's funny, and I do, and hopefully Felipe, our digital marketing guy, isn't listening. But I noticed sometimes, even the other day, I just did a video on my phone of trying to capture the winter or the fall leaves and blowing them and stuff like that. And I just did it with my phone and did some things and put on some cheesy music, and it hit, and it was like outperforming all these drone shots and actors and like gimbals and all this stuff that they do. They bring out a film crew, and some of the videos are outperforming that with just doing that. So I don't think anybody should. What I'm trying to get at with that is I don't think anybody should really feel held up like I don't got this $20,000 budget to hire a Felipe, and I can't do that, so I shouldn't start a glamping resort. You can get just as much if you just get out there and it comes from you, and you're the operator on the site, and you're the one showing. I think the video was like POV. You're staying at the Jack Dome, and so go in and show that stuff. People are gonna resonate with that a little bit more because it's coming from you as the owner. The other part of it too is when you're doing those videos, like we said, and I've heard that too, that where it seems to be trending, where people want to see that face of a staff member or of yourself walking through and showing the person the saunas and showing the person why is this light here, because it gives us better ambiance here, why the beds that we use are different and stuff like that. So I think it is really important that that you get your face in front there, and that it is a little bit, I want to say amateur, but can be a little bit less than needed.
Yeah, I think that authentic connection that feels like a real, it doesn't feel like it's staged. It doesn't feel like a commercial. It doesn't feel like actors. Like people really feel like they're connecting with the founder or the owner, and it's powerful. And we've heard that a lot from a lot of guests. I mean, like it even works for Nick and I. I mean, we've got absolutely abysmal personalities and look like shit.
Speak for yourself.
But people love the long form content and the chance to like get to know people. So
yeah.
And are you planning any Christmas campaigns?
Yeah, so I think we're fully booked up. Yeah, we're fully booked up for Christmas. already.
Was that off the back of any particular marketing, or did people just want to book that straight away?
Yeah, Christmas and New Year's, because I had somebody call about Christmas yesterday, and we went through, and I think there's one day that's open on the 24th, on in one of the domes. The rest of it is all rented out. Um, I don't know. I think there was a lot of Christmas content that got shared from people last year, so maybe it came off that. But we didn't even mention Christmas. We're still, truthfully, I just posted my first snowfall video yesterday. The rest of it has been fall. I've been trying to like hit those fall colors and that fall autumn beauty and relax with a cider and stuff like that. I haven't even hit winter yet, so yeah.
Will you be working Christmas Day then?
Oh yeah, yeah, every day.
um, so do you charge? I think I saw on your website. Do you charge $350 every day for all the domes?
Yeah,
It's just flat.
yeah. So we changed to. So we started with 1 day bookings. Obviously, with like we talked about, with the amount of touch points that we have and with our cleaning staff and everything that we offer, our margins aren't there when we offer just the 1 night stay. So we give out free propane, free firewood, um, all of that stuff that we offer to our guests. At the end of the day, on a 1 night stay, the margins aren't really there. Um, so what we did was we switched to, for summertime, we did a 2 day minimum, which is great. I mean, 2 day minimums are awesome, the way to go. But we found when we started to get into our shoulder season that, and the change of season, like people just weren't down to get away they got time for a quick getaway. We can stay the night, but they don't have time to be taking 2 days off and a travel day and all of this stuff. So we noticed the bookings kind of taper off a little bit there. We went back and introduced the 1 night stays with a 1 night premium, just a little bit, 30 extra bucks. Covers that, just that little extra bit that we lose. And then bookings have went up again. So we've noticed that a lot.
I was going to say that, doing the Airbnb model where it's just it's a flat cleaning fee, and it doesn't matter whether it's 1 night or 3 nights, the cleaning fee is the same. So basically the guest gets to make that choice where it's like, hey, I can stay for 1 night. Because it's important. It is kind of silly to me that hotels don't have that. I think the Airbnb model is better for the guest experience because, there's transparency, and it's a win-win, right? Because the guests can choose and make their decisions based off a flat cleaning fee that the business has to pay. Well,
Exactly. Yeah, you're not hiding it in anywhere. It's like, this is it, and this is the reason why. If a guest asks me, I'm not hiding anything. This is the reason why it's better if you stay for 2 nights. So please stay for another night.
so Josh, are you going to introduce dynamic pricing?
I don't know. I'd love to hear other people's feedback on this. We haven't. We've stayed away from the dynamic pricing. I don't know that it's easy to pawn off on the guests of being like, yeah, I don't know. It's like an airline ticket, you don't know what you're going to get. But I also like the transparency of saying, this is what our rate is. I like when people ask me what's our rate. I don't like just, I think it pisses some people off if you say, no, just go to my website, check availability and pricing on my website. I think people are like, well, I'm here right now. You're talking to me. What's your price? Well, if you go on the website, you'll find. I think it gets a little, there's, I don't know, something that comes up, and I might be wrong on this, and we may be losing like 25% on our room rates because I hold this belief. I would love to hear what other people have to say about that. We have not introduced it, and that is my reasoning.
I would have to say I 102% think you should start doing dynamic pricing. The value of your product changes based off the day. And
Yes.
so the price should reflect that. And also, as I'm sure you've noticed, your demand with not using dynamic pricing will be lots of peaks and troughs. If there was a graph, lots of peaks and troughs, really low in the really low in the mid-season, really high in weekends and in holidays. And what dynamic pricing does for you as a business is it starts to level out that demand based off price, supply and demand, and it stabilizes your operations so that you are not having 100% occupancy on the weekend and 10% occupancy in the weeks. And that's more difficult for staffing, and it's more difficult for your schedule. So you're evening that out through supply and demand.
Hey, I'm down for that, and it's definitely something that we can introduce. We just haven't done it yet. So I thank you for the for that advice.
I think it's just the way you were like, I 100% too. I thought you were going to say 100% 2% agree with that. And then you're
I
like, nope, you're
100%
doing it wrong.
disagree with you. You're doing it wrong. No, hey, I appreciate that. You know, it's our first year in business, our first time at any of this stuff. So if we can learn any of this new stuff, that's why we're here.
So, Josh, you are. I think when we last spoke, you were a couple of months into opening, and you launched in winter, which, I mean, that's obviously sounds tough, but also, I think with the hype around the launch, you obviously kind of fill your booking calendar in a pretty quiet, otherwise quiet period of the year. So I would expect demand would have dipped a little bit compared to last year in winter. Is that the case, or are you still kind of similar levels? How's that going?
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't think anything could have hit harder than we did when we opened this glamping resort, with the influencers that we had, and just every influencer. So I don't know, to reach back on that. Our marketing strategy was we didn't open for 2 weeks when we were ready to open, and we brought out every influencer with a heartbeat. Like, you had 1,000 followers in a heartbeat, you're in. So we traded a lot of content. So people were so annoyed that they're like, you're everywhere right now. Every news thing. We spent that 2 weeks of not taking in revenue for that reason, and it blew the place up. I don't think anybody didn't hear of this glamping resort in Saskatchewan at Blackstrap. So we hit it really hard. We had 98% occupancy all winter long and stuff, but we're already seeing that occupancy again. We've never been through a November, which is just a shoulder season, but we're seeing that occupancy again for our December. So it's not as high right now, but people are also booking a little bit later. They're not booking so far ahead when it comes to the fall. I noticed, or the off seasons. I noticed that a lot. Summertime, people are already booking for summer, but people will book the day of if they're going to stay in the wintertime.
Josh, are you marketing and advertising that this year is going to be the peak of, in the 20-year period, it's going to be the highest peak of solar magnetic activity and Northern Lights viewing opportunity? Are you advertising that or trying to, anything around that?
We haven't advertised, and thank you for bringing that up. We have done anytime that we can, and we know that there's going to be that activity, we definitely share it with our guests. We also do whatever we can to get our photographer out there when we know that there's going to be a good show going on, and so we'll have them out there to do that. And so we are, Saskatchewan's name is the land of the living skies. We are very much about sharing the Northern Lights experiences with people, the dark skies, with people that is out here at the resort. So it's one of our touch points, but we don't directly advertise to that. But maybe that's something that we could pick up on a little bit more. I'd like to chat with you a little bit more about that.
This year is a huge opportunity, and I think even the next year and the following year will all be really good. So for you and for any listeners, in the north, I mean, and the thing about the Northern Lights shows is you only get, maybe 24, 48 hour notice before a big show, right? You can't plan for it. So if your booking calendar has some availability and you post on social media as soon as a weather alert comes out, say, hey, big solar storm expected, we have 2 rooms available. Who wants to come see the Northern Lights? And I think that could be huge for you and for any listeners, because I know it's something worth thinking about, because I really want to try to see it this year, and it's like worth making a trip for.
So, and it's a really good point, and we should touch on that a little bit more. I guess growing up here, we take it for granted a lot. We had a guest that stayed with us from Chile, and she was here for other work, but she wanted to stay at the glamping resort, so she was going to take an Uber every day to go stay for a half an hour to go stay at our glamping resort, so in hopes that she would get to see the Northern Lights that were there, because she'd seen pictures at our glamping resort. Well, we ended up being out of town. We were at that award ceremony. I ended up giving her my van because I'm like, you're not spending $100 a day to hopefully see them and maybe never see them, right? It's not a guaranteed thing. So I gave her my van for 3 days for her 3 day stay that she stayed out at the domes, and she saw them. And like,
Nice.
This lady, she messaged us. She was crying. She was like, just blew her away. And for us, we're like, oh yeah, those are pretty cool. It's I still appreciate them, but not to that level of breaking down in tears. Like I said as well, we've got lots of new to Canada families, and it's a huge draw for them. So I do need to tap into that a little bit more, and probably advertise that a little bit better.
Yeah, it's like one of the last top things for me on my bucket list, so it's up there. Nick, do we want to wrap up?
Yeah, well, I think we're about to lose Josh with his
No,
phone run out of charge. So.
I jiggled the cord. I'm back up
Okay,
to 11% here.
cool.
So
All right. Well, I don't have any more questions anyway. I think we got some great coverage there. Thank you again. I think that was the first time we covered just surface level winter glamping stuff. I think we really went deep this time. So thank you for that. Thank you, Connor, for your questions that you added in as well. Listeners, next week will be the last episode of the year. We're going to take a little break over Christmas, but next week is a Christmas special. With Connor, myself, and Jacob Helverson. So we're really looking forward to that. So from winter glamping to Christmas, we'll see you then. And thank you again, Josh.